Hello and welcome to another episode of Tester Speak, and I'm your host Brijesh Dev. Well, my guest today is no less than stalwart. If you're talking about people when we talk about testing or anything related to that, a very popular member of the test chat group, somebody who is always talking about examples, somebody who is very good with analogies, somebody who is in my opinion an expert in sociology. I think I have given you enough hint. So before I extend it any further, I would like to welcome Sachin Sharma. Sachin.
Hi, Vijesh.
Hey. How are
Namaste.
you? Namaste. How
I'm
are
good.
you?
I'm good. I'm doing good, Vijesh. It's an awesome morning, Sunday, and with you, it's a great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking of doing a normal written intro that I try and do with others, but with you, I just wanted to speak what I think of you. I said what I said. Okay. So something that already brings a smile on my face is thinking about how do you manage to get these examples, analogies, anecdotes every time you speak. Okay. So. Uh, You seem to be more of a sociology expert than a testing expert. How did you manage to get that?
Well, yeah. Sociology expert. I would not call myself as an expert of sociology, but yeah, I actually relate testing as a social activity, and that's why I prefer to link lots of things to sociology because one thing which is important for testing is one thing which is important for everyone in the software industry is customer. And if it is a customer driven activity that you are doing, you have to have that understanding of society and sociology, unless your customer is not a robot. The second point is how I use it and why. So as a human being, we have two basic capabilities of knowing and doing, right? We know some of the things, and on basis of that, the thing which we know, we do things, right? So the doing part is how I speak, why I speak, and what I am speaking, right? So I'll just add one. We're gonna have a chat session, right? It's not important to be like an interviewer. You have to speak in
No,
English
no,
and
no, no.
Java and C sharp. You know?
You're supposed to speak your mind. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it said in Sanskrit there is a shloka which says, "Sateshu jayate shura sahasreshu cha pandita vakta das sahasreshu data bhavati vanava." That means Sateshu Jaite Shura. There is one person out of 100 who is actually a brave. Sahasreshu Cha Pandita. There is one person out of 1,000 who is actually knowledgeable. The third
Yes.
part is Vakta Das Sahasreshu. Out of 10,000, there is one person who is a good speaker.
Yes.
So, coming to that point, if I want to be one out of 10,000 people, I have to understand my audience. I have to understand to whom I'm speaking, about what I'm speaking. So
Right.
that sometimes connect me that you have to understand one thing, that is sociology. Always connect things to talk about complex things in a simple language. How can you do that? You have to connect those things. In the sociology in India, it's driven by cricket, Bollywood, politics. If you have those examples, and then those small examples of Bartan, Jhadu, Patka, and if you can use it, that's how you speak good things, and that's what I like, and I try to implement and incorporate those things in whenever I talk. So that's what I can say about it.
Well, I think that shloka that you mentioned uh, exemplifies your personal character because you come across as somebody who's good with his writing skills, good with his oratory skills. You are able to cite good examples. There is so much to learn from you because every time I have got into a discussion with you, you bring out these examples and you bring out these wonderful points. And I think this was quite evident from the for the audience who have seen the live session that our friend Naveen hosted for us. You gave some
Yeah.
wonderful examples there as well. So people know what I'm talking about, and I wanted to know the secret behind all this. So I now understand where when you say that testing is a social skill, what do you mean by that? Now, apart from that, you mentioned something very wonderful. I mean, you have to understand who your customer is, unless your customer is a robot. Now, do you fore- do you foresee robots being our customers in near future?
Yeah, definitely. I see it. I mean, see, I I cannot predict, and I don't even believe who is doing any prediction, because you can now, after Corona, I think nobody can predict anything, right? So you cannot actually rely on your predictions, but you can adopt lots of things. But if there is a prediction of robot being doing anything, then they'll definitely be a customer. But the problem is, if robot will be a customer, then robot will do a testing. Why they need us, right? So there are chances. There are, in fact, nowadays also, if you see, there are a lot of places where robot is a customer. I'm not saying end user. So customer is somebody who is taking your final product as their raw material. So
Correct.
giving you an example, so the people who make sweets, right? The halwai we call in India, they their customer is someone who eats sweets.
Right.
But from where it start is, so it starts from the beginning when the farmer do the cultivation of sugarcane, right?
Okay.
So sugarcane is a final product of a farmer, but it's a raw material for a sugar mill, right? Then sugar mill take that raw material, convert it into sugar. That's the final product, right? For sugar mill. But for
Correct.
halwai, it's a raw material, right? Then halwai create his sweets and give it to a customer. That's final product. But
Yeah.
for someone who is searching for a groom for his daughter, it's a raw material, right? Sweet. So that's how the chain goes. So if a chain of doing transaction through a payment, if there is something which is accepting something from database and converting it into front end or something, it's a robot. It can be a robot, right? So there are robot possibly can be a customer. Hard to say that robot will be end user of the most important thing, because I still believe every technology, every domain, every industry is working for well-being of human. There is no one who is not focusing on human. So if human is your focus, I'll tell you one more thing. The safe scale agile framework, which is kind of very famous agile thing, they have revisit their framework and they have added one important point, that is customer centricity. Earlier it
Right.
was not there, right? Business agility and customer centricity. So people have started understanding the importance of customer and keeping customer in the center. So I think, yeah, it's important to understand the philosophy of customer, whether they will be robot or a human being. We have to always focus on the on our end users, our customers.
Well, I'll tell you why I brought this up. Okay, customer being a
Mm-hmm.
robot. Again, you said what I wanted to actually convey. Okay, so if a robot is the customer, then the robot should be building uh,
Yeah,
the product, and the robot should be testing the product. So I want to
right.
begin with that part where people are saying, okay, AI will do this for you, or AI will do that for you. Okay, and people are getting people are saying, oh my God, AI is this, and oh my God, oh AI will take over testing or things like that. Okay, I personally believe it's a far-fetched dream. Okay,
Yeah,
there are a lot of companies who are bringing out AI products and all that. Okay, people talk a lot about AI and AI helping in testing. I'm not convinced. Okay, because of a simple reason. Okay, can AI think? Can AI ask?
right.
If you see that, if you can have an AI system ask questions about the product based on the behavior that is observed in the product, and it interacts and it responds and says, oh, okay, so now you've done this, why have you done this, can you please explain? And then the product
Yeah.
explains it, and then it says, okay, now I understand, so next, can you do this for me? Okay, so if that interaction is happening with AI, then I will be convinced that, yeah, okay, you can use AI for testing.
Right.
Because that's what people do, right? They ask questions. So
Right.
that's where I was getting at, and you said something really wonderful about it. So you gave the example of how somebody's end product is a raw material for somebody, and you built a whole chain from a sugarcane farmer to somebody who's looking for a groom for his daughter. Well, that's
That's how the chain is. I'll tell you one more thing, Rajesh.
So the final product that comes out is the groom, right? So groom is
Absolutely.
the final.
From sugarcane. From sugarcane, you're reaching to groom.
Groom.
Can you imagine it?
Wow, I never imagined. I never imagined that. I think
That's what the social is.
it's going to throw in a totally different perspective. So especially for those boys who are looking to get married, they start looking at themselves as as the final product of a sugarcane farmer.
Absolutely.
That's
So I'll tell you one more thing about this artificial intelligence that you said and machine learning that people are talking. I believe humans stopped learning. That's why now machines are learning. But there is one field which is specific right now. I can tell you, stock market, right? So right now you can buy stocks through your wristwatch. That's how it is the advanced industry. So do you really need those stock brokers? Their job is very what do you call it? It's very difficult. It may get decommissioned when they started predicting that people can buy it through wristwatch. We would not need stock broker. They are there because from where you will get that capital intellectual, from where you get the advices, from where you will read the sentiments. Okay, you can read data, you can get data. That someone who is actually leading the market is not dependent on data.
correct.
Data can give you some insight, that you can generate insight through data after you studying it, but the data has to be created by someone, then only you can use it, right? So I think even if machine will do everything, you will definitely need person to the things like advice, knowledge, questioning, intellectual. You will not get it through machines.
Correct.
And then the problem, like you shared the LinkedIn video where this guy was dependent on password of his machine, and someday he broke his teeth, and then he is saying open the door. It's completely locked. So
Well,
it's a this one disadvantage. Yeah.
well, so I always believe in one thing, that any machine learning system or any AI system is only as good as its data. Okay, the quality of the data is actually the quality of the product. So if you are trying to teach a machine something, okay, if you are trying to teach a machine to sing, for example, okay,
Yeah.
if you key in the wrong notes, the tune that the machine is going to sing will always be wrong, and it will always sound
Absolutely.
like you want to hear a melodious quail's voice, and you will end up hearing a frog's voice. Okay, always it'll always happen that, right? So you can't do that. So for a melodious voice, you need to key in the right notes so that the machine interprets it that way and does. And so for you to believe that okay, it's in my control as to how I build the machine or how the machine will do after you've done something. It's again, I don't know what people are thinking. Okay, any machine learning system, any AI system is only as good as the data is, and how much of that data has been churned through the actual practical fields where it is going to be applied. For example, if an AI system is deployed at hospitals, okay, forget hospitals, okay, suppose, let's take the example of schools. Okay, so schools is a good example because you are trying to talk about teaching kids with various levels of intellect. Okay, so when you're trying to teach kids of various levels of intellect, has it been pushed through all those permutations, combinations? Have you captured data from all those permutation combinations so that your machine can actually learn to interact with those kids, in every school? And then if you talk about a school that is in rural India, or compare it to a school in urban India, the learning methods are different. Okay, the intellect, I'm not saying that somebody is less intelligent or more intelligent here, but what I'm trying to say is the learning methods are different. The ways in which they adapt to a particular learning method is different. Okay, so you cannot apply the same thing everywhere, right? If I have to collect data, if I say, okay, I'm going all out. For example, let's take an example. Okay, Byju's, okay, learning software. It's a great software, but does it work for everybody? Do you think all students can learn from any learning platform or an online learning platform like Byju's? Do you think all students will benefit from it?
No. So I don't know what is the actual study they made. In fact, what I feel is, so like you said, if somebody will ask a question which is not there in the data, so if you're asking to a teacher, he can certainly provide you some insight at least, and he can say that, okay, this is something which I can read and I'll get back to you on that. But for a machine, if he doesn't know, and specifically for child, they can ask anything. They can ask every why for every what. They can ask it. So the problem is your system cannot be ready to handle every situation unless you have that additional adaptive intelligence with that. And I don't know how they will adopt it, right? So it's a long journey. I hope they can do it, and the machine will start teaching people, because the learning started, at least in Indian mythology, it started. You have to go to jungles and then get your study. Now we have to go to school. Now people are not going to school; they are learning from there. I don't know if that learning comes closer to your brain, and it's something that can happen, that cannot. But one thing which is very important is, you cannot, first of all, you cannot use same recipe for everyone. I mean, if you ask an elephant, snake, a parrot, and a dog to ask them climb the tree, so one parameter to judge who is best, right? You cannot do it. So that's what this is doing.
Or a fish to climb a tree.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. There are different. I mean, my name is Sachin, and some other Sachin, we cannot have same qualities, right? So there has to be something. If you are going to that level of intelligence, I'll challenge. I really am wishful of having separate education system for a separate set of mind. Can I have it? If I can have it, the win for humanity.
Well, I just wanted to add something to what you said. I mean, you made a very good point about asking questions. Now, I'm waiting for that day when the software, okay, which is teaching a kid, so the kid has a question, and the software actually tries to question back to the kid and says, okay, can you give me the context of the question? Okay, the kid will ask whatever, right? Children will ask whatever. You said they have a why for every what. Okay, which is very true. And when we are talking about kids, it is okay. Our context is much bigger. This is just an example that we are discussing of how learning systems can can cause trouble or get into trouble rather. Okay, so kids will normally ask like, okay, obvious questions you can still feed it into the system. Like for example, okay, why does the sun rise from east? Okay, you can talk about the Earth's rotation. Because that is something that that is quite obvious. Or maybe to the extent of saying, okay, why February has 28 days, or there are 29 days every 4 years. Maybe that is the question that you can still answer. But if you go a little deeper, okay, now I'm just trying to think of some crazy question that kids ask. Okay, yeah, reminds me of a story. So I was talking about I was telling the story of Ramayana to one of my nieces some time ago. Okay, and I gave it a modern touch that they went and after the war when Ravan was defeated, and so they came back to India, and in Pushpak, which was an aeroplane designed those days which would fly, blah blah. Just to get a modern touch and for my niece to understand the context, and she was happy to hear the story, but she had a question. Okay, how could people travel from one country to the other country? Did we not have any visa regulations those days? Okay, so the kids understand the visa regulation, but how do you explain that? No, it is a system that has come. Okay, so you have to dig it deeper to understand. Okay, how do you know, or what do you know about the visa thing? Because they have seen, okay, because they travel to different countries, they have seen on their passport that there is a visa which is there. When they go, the immigration officer, they check the visa, they stamp on it and say, okay, you are allowed to enter, and then it happens. So for a kid to ask that question, they have done their homework. Now, whether you have done your homework to answer that question becomes even more important, right? Right. So how will a machine do that is something that I'm trying to understand.
In fact, I'll tell you one more thing. Even if machine knows answer, sometimes it's bad to tell the answer to the kid. My niece asked me why my birthday is on 14th March. Why? Machine maybe knowing this answer, it's not a good thing to talk to a kid. I know how to dilute that actual answer and tell her. I can explain Scrum and Agile to a 6-year-old guy. Can machine do that? I don't know. Right? So that's what you have. You have context-driven understanding. You know what? The context is I have to explain this thing to that guy. I can do that. Machine, it will start. Agile is a time box approach of iterations. What this guy will understand. So it's like it depends on.
That's a very good question. In fact, I'm just dreading the day when I have to explain why his birthday is on 21st of
June. that's a tough question. That's easy and tough, Easy to answer, tough to tell.
That's a nasty question, actually. Think about it. Say, okay, no, something happened. Okay, so.
It's very, you know what? Difficult. That's why I'm saying it's a challenge. This is extreme testing of a device. Ask this question and accept the answer.
Yeah.
So,
all right. I think so. I think the world will know what our views are on AI and machine learning from this conversation. Yeah. Especially I'm still trying to get into terms with the fact that a sugarcane farmer never imagines that his final product is a groom. So I'm still about to get into terms with that.
That is actually great. I should write article on this. It's a great analogy team.
Actually, it is. That was a wonderful explanation, and this is why the conversations that we have, even the background conversations that we have become so interesting, and we laugh so much. And I know one of the conversations, I want to bring it to this context as well. Some people have asked about it. Some people who have seen the BTS video know about it, the behind the scenes video on our channel. know about what we're talking about, and it is the Ola and Tinder. So, Sachin, would you like to throw some light on the Ola and Tinder idea, please?
People asked me about this. What was the what actually you wanted to get from Tinder? I mean, people have specific things to get. You're you're looking for something else, right? So it happens like so what we were discussing, if you just want, I was saying that you have to, if you want to create anything new, see, innovation is it's not something that you have to discover. Sometimes you just need to uncover. Okay, that's what innovation is. Agile processes are just uncovered. They haven't discovered it, right? The manifesto says we are uncovering. Okay, so I just wanted to uncover a concept that Ola knows how to connect two parties who are in need of each other's services.
Correct.
Same Tinder does, but the the technology behind Ola and user experience of Tinder, can you join these two things and create an imaging software for two parties? One, I need job. One, I have job. That is what we discussed, right? So it was it was from there it came into picture. And I didn't find anything good to explain this thing apart from Ola and Tinder. That's why I said it.
No, no, that shows that shows the world that a lot of and a lot of Tinder, which is
Yeah.
I have tested Tinder for a day. That's how much I've used Tinder. So I know what left swipe does and what right swipe does. Okay, that much I know.
Yeah.
Apart from that,
You know everything then. That's what Tinder is.
yeah, that's all you need to know basically. Okay,
Yeah.
but then I like the fact about you said about discovering and uncovering. Now, when I bring these contexts, when I bring these terms, okay, I will speak about innovation a little later. But when I talk just purely from a testing perspective, okay, I'm a tester. Okay, these two, understanding the uncovering and the discovering aspect, okay, these two play a very important role in testing as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So I want your perspective on that. What do you think? Why do you think uncovering is important? Understanding uncovering is important, and understanding discovering is important.
See, what I feel is, and again, this is, I just want to use the idea of Anirudh, Ani, when he interviewed. He said, this is what I feel, and you can have your own understanding on it. So what I feel about it is, uncovering is important. Discovering is essential. If you want to do, you can do it. Test. So there is one pain point of tester, that we don't have a lot of time to do what we want to do, right? The time crunch is always there on a tester. So at that point of time, if I will go and I will take a play job, I will discover something new out of this product, I'll do it. It will not work every time. If you want, you can. I mean, I literally discover things when I'm not testing. I'm thinking about my product, I'm thinking about my customer, some cases, and something I discover that, okay, this can be a case where I can test and it will definitely got failed. That's my gut feeling, and it failed. That's discovering things. But uncovering is very simple, that you have to just utilize your past lesson learns, past experience. Like, I worked for a company who used to make a product for shoe shining, right? Then I worked for a company who used to product for diamond polishing. So, you know, from shoes to diamond. So what is uncovering in this context is, if I can uncover the fact of this software which is testing the diamond manufacturing, can it be related to a software which was there for shoe shining? Then I can, you know, make some of the test cases on basis of that understanding. Then I work for pizza delivery system. Then right now I'm working for healthcare system. So uncovering is, you have to just collect some of your lesson learned, some of your understanding, cross check things, evaluate your product on different, even if it is foolish case. I mean, I just want to just, I'll tell you, Google is the biggest search engine, but 95% people open Google just to check if internet is working for them or not, right? 95%. So if if next time I'll test any search engine, I'll not go ahead and straight away check the search functionality. I'll first check whether my internet is working or not through this search engine. That's uncovering, right? So you uncover from the patterns you understand, you know, or you heard about, or you felt. But discovering is something that that you should do at some another level. When you are influencer of some of the things, you are generating new strategies or something. But I don't think people should literally go and discover about the world. They can discover their powers, their strengths and stuff like that. But yeah, for testing it is important to uncover and understand. So unless you will understand that thin line between uncovering and discovering, you will not be able to understand whether you are uncovering or discovering. So it's important to know. If you know what is night, then only you can understand, okay, this is day, not night. So we have to understand those things. That's why it's important. Yeah.
Well, I think I couldn't have asked for a better explanation. Now, the next question that comes to my head straight away out of this information: how can I innovate as a tester, and how can I use uncovering and discovering in my innovation as a tester?
Okay, so first of all, we need to understand what is innovation. And that innovation is again different for different person, for different context. So I certainly cannot go, let's say I have 3 months of testing projects. I cannot go and every project I can innovate some new tool or new software or new programming language. I cannot do that. Innovation is something, if you're doing any activity, can you simplify it and make it more feasible to you through smallest smallest thing that make your life easy. So innovation is basically something that making your life easy. You need to understand what is your life. So as a tester, if I'm testing a pizza delivery system, my life is to test how drivers are moving and how a customer can see if my pizza is coming to me. It's coming, it's on the next turn, right? So innovation is how I will test it. So for innovation, I think there are 4, I'll try if it will be 4 or some stages are there. First, to understand what you will do if you will not innovate. So if you understand the problem, that's first step to go towards solution. So my first thing is to understand what my life will be if I will not innovate, or if you not find any solution. You know, Bill Gates said that I give most difficult task to most laziest person, because they find simple way to do that, right? So you have to first understand what is the problem if I will not innovate, and find out the simple way of what are the small bridges that I can build, and I can minimize that gap of, you know, concept to customer, right? So the innovation for me is reducing this gap. Okay, and if you can reduce this gap through any of your understanding, through process, through methodology, through strategies, that's what you can do. So the one mantra for innovation is, first imagine what will be there if you will not innovate, and second is innovate to minimize this gap. That's all you should do. Other than that, you will be scientist. I'm not scientist, I'm a tester. I just need to, you know, this minimizing this gap. And one more thing I just want to add over here, I don't know if you will ask this in next minute or what, but agile, I primarily talk on agile processes a lot. So the first principle out of 12 agility, they said that our highest priority is to satisfy customer with early, continuous, valuable product. Correct. So being a tester, see, early people know how to do iteration. You have to work in iteration. Scrum, it is early. You want more early, work on WIL, work item limit, Kanban, it will be more early. Continuous, people know. CI/CD pipeline, you will have 2-3 plumbers to fix the leakage. It will be your pipeline from this to that end. Continuous. What about valuable? Valuable is most important word. So to make that software or product valuable, you will need someone, and to add more value to that valuable thing, you will need someone who can innovate. So innovation is not a necessity, it's a compulsion for a tester. You have to have that idea of how to innovate, even if it is a small. You have to change your pace by 1 hour per kilometer, I don't care, but you have to move towards innovation. That's what testers should do. That's how it should be.
Well, I think this is a very strong message for the testing community, because if you are sitting tight in your chair and saying, big deal, I'll get the requirements, I'll make test cases, I'll execute those test cases. Maybe someday if I learn automation, I'll convert those test cases from manual test cases to automation and then run and then show it to my manager who will say, wow, what fantastic job you've done. And
green circle.
He'll give me a 5 rating and an increment of 20%, and that will allow me to buy a luxury car, get married to the most beautiful woman on this planet, have a big bungalow. It is utter nonsense. Okay, if you have such a dream, it is utter nonsense. Okay, the point is, if as a tester you do not innovate, you will perish.
Yeah.
Okay. In today's day, if you do not care about the way you test, if you do not innovate in the way you think, if you do not apply the logic or the principle that Sachin just spoke about of discovering and uncovering, and here when I say discovering and uncovering, I am talking about your potential. Okay, discovering your potential. Are you aware, first of all? And I keep saying this repeatedly, it's about self-confidence, self-awareness, and self-discovery. Are you, first of all, confident that you are a good tester?
Yeah.
Get that confidence first. Secondly, be aware of the fact that there are things that you know, there are things that you do not know. Then that will allow you to create a roadmap. If you create a learning roadmap, then from there you will start the process of discovering yourself. Okay, because that will allow you to teach others things that have helped you get successful, have helped you get on that path of learning, get on that path of trying to do something different. Because then when you start teaching others, you start getting ideas from them, and you start grabbing things and you say, oh, this is something that I could have tried. You are willing to experiment more, and that is combination. I've just taken your discovery and uncovering things and added my masala on it, my spice on it.
Oh, yes.
For English audience, if you do not understand masala, okay, we tend to get carried away and use such terms. But the fundamental message here is that you should always think of innovating as a tester.
Yeah, okay? Yeah, absolutely.
It is of utmost importance. Yeah, Sachin, you're saying something.
No, I'm saying that exactly what you said. The discovery part is very important. I haven't covered it, but like you said, that it's always about self-discovery, and there is no alternative. In fact, when I heard when you first time said this, we were discussing about that article which I have written about. Forget learning, learn forgetting, and then you told me this perspective, and it's miracle. When you find someone who thinks exactly same wavelength, but the frequency or the understanding it's superly high. So you have that understanding of how to convey same thing with more power. So I that time also I love this.
I now raise my collar or something. I mean,
absolutely, absolutely. There is no doubt on it. So we are learning. We are definitely learning. That's why I said you. I mean, I know how to write XPath. you also know how to write XPath, but the way you will explain it, right, is it's very different. So you know how to write XPath, and another thing, you know how to explain how to write XPath. So Wasim Barelvi says, कौन सी बात कहाँ कैसे कही जाती है, ये सलीका हो तो हर बात सुनी जाती है. So even if I know things, but if I don't know how, when, and where to talk about it, nobody will listen me. And you have that, I don't know, you have it as a gift or you developed it, but whatever it is, it's amazing thing to have. I think you developed it, right?
That's the secret. That's the secret. No, it's not a secret. It's not a secret. Thank you, Sachin, for those really kind words. It is not a secret. You know, it's all about practice. Okay.
Yeah, it's
you have to keep doing it. Okay. First few times you may get it wrong. It's absolutely fine. I got it wrong. I don't know how many times. Okay. I got told this is not how you say it. This is not how you do it. But I'll tell you one more secret. Okay. When I write emails, even the professional emails, when I write emails to my boss, one of my ex-bosses, who's actually my mentor in testing, who actually taught me testing, he looked at my emails and said, "You're writing an email to the customer, and this thing is so damn informal. What are you thinking?" Boss, if you want the exact information from the customer, okay, you've got to be creative. Let's try this. Let me send it. We'll see what effect it has got. And then we sent it. Of course, we went home, chilled out, came back the next morning. The next morning, the response from the customer had 100 attached documents, okay, explaining everything. He gave all the information that he could. Okay, and then I said, see, this is how it works, because
right.
You have to tell the customer in a language that he understands. So when we talk to him on phone, he's so informal. He's happy when you are informal and are at his wavelength. So why should an email be so formal? Dear sir, please find attached blah blah. I don't care. I seriously don't care. I'm like, okay.
No, that's
okay. With him, there was no dear sir or anything like that. Yeah, dear is something that I have been using in my emails right from day one. No, earlier it was hi. Then I gradually became a little more, personal with people and started using dear. And I've been using dear to address people in my emails for a long time now, several years. So that comes naturally to me. So I wrote dear Matt. His first name, and then I said, okay, the weather must be, short weather. I gave him some gibberish, and then I said, I was trying to understand the product. Okay, here's my understanding. What I have understood, I've written in this document, and I've attached this email. If you think that this is incomplete, please help complete this information. Okay, and then in response, he said, yeah, cool. Now I know that you know few things. Here are other things that will help you understand things better. He gave me a few. Okay, so it was absolutely informal. It did not have to say, please find attached my understanding document that I have prepared after doing so much of research, blah blah. Not required, man. So
absolutely, it's not required.
Yeah. So the point that you made about trying to say what you want to say, I mean, it comes out of practice. Okay, you have to try again and again and again and again. And if you keep worrying about the fact that, oh no, what will that person think about me if I were to talk to him like this? Sorry, boss, you're not making progress. I'm sorry, you're seriously not making progress. That's what I honestly. Now, that is enough bragging about me, so I will do this once more. But but the clear message is that when you're communicating, you must be willing, or forget communicating. When you are trying to do anything in your life, you should be ready to fail. Okay, if you do not fail, you will not learn. It's as simple as that. Let's take a very simple example. When we were babies, when we were learning to walk, how many times did we stumble, get up again, start walking. We did that, right? All of us did that. That is the most thing to come to a human being. From crawling to walking, we've fallen. We've tried to run. We have fallen. We've still got up, and now we can, we can run. We can climb mountains. We can ride bikes. We can do all sorts of things. Some of us, go on to do gymnastics, whatever. Okay, and that basic step, we failed so many times, but we picked up and we learned. So if you're not trying, if because you think that you will fail and you will get embarrassed, you need to revisit that thought. Okay, be ready to be embarrassed. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. I mean,
no, but you said the practice is I was saying that you said the practice is actually the key. So I have read somewhere the Mr. Usain Bolt, the runner, he has longest femur. Femur is the already longest bone in your body, femur, the thigh bone, and he has the longest bone, the comparison of human body. That's why he is very fast. But the fact is, he started running and fast so that his femur gone little larger. So he has developed that thing through practice. It's not because his femur is long, he's running fast, because he ran fast and he make it longer and now he's running faster. So practice makes, if you're a man, perfect.
And since you're talking about Usain Bolt, let me give another fact about Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt has got 9 Olympic medals, 9 Olympic gold medals or something. And, and for those 9 Olympic gold medals, do you know how much time he has spent on the track to get those 9 Olympic gold medals?
You already said it will not be a Q&A round.
Yeah, it is 115 seconds, not even 2 minutes. Okay, that is not even 2 minutes. Okay, and for not even 2 minutes to get 9 gold medals.
9 gold.
How many years of practice has gone into that?
Exactly.
How many years of practice has gone into that? Isn't that absolutely incredible? Doesn't that tell you something? I mean, I found that to be an amazing lesson. That boss, you practice so hard that when it comes to actually going and achieving something, you have to just do this and you get it. You become the best. That is, I mean, that guy definitely, I mean, he deserves a big, whatever. I mean, he's super. Okay. So
yeah, indeed.
So now you already touched upon it, and I was thinking of asking that question, but you have the habit of reading my mind. My favorite subject, agile, or as it is prevalent in the industry, I like to call it fragile. Okay, because most of them have it fragile, and they don't. Now you touched upon the very fundamental aspect of it, the very first principle, and the most important word in that is valuable. How many of us, when we talk about agile or when we talk about testing, understand the significance of value that we are bringing to the table? Do we understand what value we are adding to our teams if we are working in agile? Do we understand what value we are bringing to the table if we are working as a tester? So how do you become valuable? What are your thoughts? Okay, good to have you back, Sachin, after that technical break, if I may call it, not technical glitch, because because it allowed you to do some things and it allowed me to do some other things while technology was taking its own sweet time. I needed a short pause and I did that, and you needed to do some touch up and do some hair makeup and stuff like that. You did. So yeah, so coming back to the discussion that we were having, I would like to know your thoughts on how I can add value as a tester and in agile.
Yeah. So, well, I think this value is really a valuable term, and you have to. Yes. So I request people first of all to understand the value of this agile software development thing. What I mean by value is See, 17 very knowledgeable, wiser people, they got together for 3 days and they came up with a manifesto of agile software development. They have 4 values. If we read that document, it has 68 words precisely. And if we do little mathematics, 17 people, 68 words, that means 4 words per person. And you know what? the reality is 2.5 days they spent and they came up with the manifesto. And then half day after lunch, they wanted to spend some time. So they came up with this 12 principles, right? So if you have only one page to read about agility, still you are getting it wrong. I mean, people do not understand. First and foremost thing I'll tell you, I have taken training of Scrum from Jeff Sutherland straight. When I understood Scrum, he was there. I was in Hargelia, it's in Tel Aviv, Israel. Yeah. And I took training from him. So see the spirit when they created this term, due to the semantic diffusion of getting change to change, now people are treating agile. Well, agile is really not the word. Agile is primarily an adjective. It's not a noun.
Correct.
Adjective, I mean small, big, shiny, green. So when I say how you do small, does that make sense?
No.
How you do green doesn't make sense. How you do agile? What is agile? What is small? Doesn't make sense. Green tea, small house, agile gymnast, agile software development process. So when people say what is agile, how you do agile, it doesn't make sense to me, because agile, you should not end your sentence on agile. In fact, someone who knows this thing, they cannot spell agile with capital A. It's not a noun, it's an adjective. That's first thing, first myth that we should burst. Second is,
So you're correcting me. Basically, you're correcting me because I write as the capital A.
so even in principle it is written, in the second principle it's written agile processes with capital A. What I mean is, it's just what you call a hypothetical or metaphoric situation, that it's an adjective. You should not end your sentence on agile. Agile processes, call it agile software. The manifesto, they say agile manifesto. I mean, the manifesto is not agile. It's not going to run fastly or quickly. It's manifesto of agile software developments, clearly written. People do not focus or do not leave it, do not understand the spirituality between those words. Those 68 words, you should remember everything. It started from V, ended on more, everything written over there. It's very important to understand first. Do not go with the coaches, poker man and estimation 3-pointer. First you need to understand the agility. Okay, it's literally spiritual. That's one. Second is, so unless you understand the value of each and every word, why they have used uncovering and not discovering, why they have said that we are uncovering a better way, it's not the best way, better way of developing a software by doing it and helping you to do. So every single word has a value. So I think in order to bring value on table through agility, you have to understand the value behind the manifesto, value behind why they have used these words, and only these values, these principles, right? And after that, when you understand the importance of agility, the importance of how to do agile things, then you can literally go and think, okay, what is agile in one liner is, I have my goal, sprint goal. I will walk 5 steps. I'll stand there. I'll evaluate where I am, and I'll again move to the right direction. Again, I'll stop. I'll evaluate where I am. Again, I'll move. The simplicity is what agile. 10 principles say simplicity is an art. It's an art of maximizing the work not to be done. That's what agile says. So if you are literally following agile, you have to follow everything, and everything is written. I'll tell you second very big claim that I'm making here. 90% of people think Scrum is equal to Agile, Scrum framework, right? But if you will read the Bible of Scrum, Scrum Guide, right? Scrum is the father of Scrum are Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland.
Yeah.
16 pages of Scrum guide. In November 2017, they revisit and they make it 19 pages. If you will search Agile word, you know how many results you will find? Zero. Agile is not. It is not mentioned at all in Scrum guide. The Bible of Scrum does not have Agile word, and you say it is Agile.
Yeah.
If you search test, you will find 4 results. If you search quality, you will find 3 results. So test is already mentioned in Scrum. You say tester doesn't have any role in Scrum team. Agile is not mentioned in Scrum guide. You said Scrum is Agile. I mean, which kind of study we are doing?
Exactly.
Right. So these are myths. These are myths, and you know, we are recording this session. Anybody can go and just check Scrum guide. How many Agile words? There is nothing called Agile in Scrum guide. Still, it is Agile because it adheres the principle of agility. Every principle you say, you can see that Scrum has the ceremony, Scrum has the values, which is adhering the agility, and that's why it is an Agile framework. Other than that, if you go, it's not written in Scrum that there should be a testing team. It's not written in Scrum that it should be Agile, right? So I would say, in order to bring the value, and these are great argument that you can always put in front of people when they say we are Scrum team, we do not need testers.
Yeah.
But we need to call it as an Agile team.
Yeah.
That's completely, I don't know what is the best word to say, but that's foolish.
Damn.
Yeah.
I clearly see.
Yeah. It's absolutely crap, right? So you asked about the values, right? So for values, that's why I'm saying that you have to understand the value behind why it is valuable, and then you need not to do anything. You will definitely go and discover how you can improve by following this 12 principle. Everything is written, and I can talk and I can, explain anything why it's there and why they have used this thing, because I'm living this. So in my journey, I'll tell you, I was a agile transformation change agent for a company called Prologic first for 2 years. So starting from the tools implementation to the conversion of the team to Scrum team and agility, and I learned a lot from the practical things, and I always try to understand why these people they have used this word and why it is not that. Why first principle is highest priority, why eighth principle is saying face-to-face communication, why fourth one is saying that there has to be a daily. So it's like everything is there. You just need to understand value of the words, and words are very important. I'll tell you, if you read the first Genesis chapter of Bible, it says in the beginning there was a word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. So in the beginning of humanity, the first thing was word. If you don't understand word, how you will understand methodology? How you will understand the process completely? You have to understand word. Every single word you have to understand. Regression, understand the word first. Okay, I don't want to regret, that's why I'm doing it. So I don't know, I mean, there are multiple things that we can talk about, but word has its so value, and then you can, any which way.
Well, that is
Yeah,
that is one heck of an explanation that people need to hear. I know there is a video disturbance. Some people may get a little upset about it, but if you have, as an audience, if you're looking at this, if you understand what Sachin has been trying to say all through, and I am not as learned as Sachin is on this subject. Okay, I am more of a tester than an agilist, and Sachin is more of an agilist than a tester. If okay, so that's why he's safe certified and I'm not. Okay, so but then in my understanding of agile, I have read the manifesto, the principles, the Scrum guide. I don't know how many times. Okay, I have not kept account, but I have read, and I that's why I can vouch for every word that you've said. Because for me, I was always hell-bent on trying to understand why behind what has been written. Okay, so if people are talking about the 4 points in the Agile Manifesto, why why did somebody have to think of it to put it that way? Okay, if you understand that, then you will understand the real value that you can derive from Agile. Otherwise, your Agile way of working, Agile software development, it'll all be in thin air. Okay, a lot of companies say, oh, we'll call a coach, we'll get a training done, and we'll be Agile. I'm like, no, you still not be, because you're mentally not there. Your head is not there. Okay, you're thinking from a process perspective. It is not about the process. It is about getting the mindset right. Okay, and I keep saying this. I may be wrong. Okay, you are the expert, but I may be wrong. And I say Agile, like you said, is an adjective. I also say it's an adjective to describe the mindset of a person. So for me, it is okay. You have to get that thing in your head. Okay, otherwise you're not doing it right. It's as simple as that. If you think that, oh, I have, I am a legend and I have expertise in handling or creating Scrum team, blah blah. Well, there you have it from the Agile Guru himself. The Scrum Guide does not talk about Agile at all. So Scrum is not equal to Agile is a message that I don't know how many times I have typed. Okay, I have been typing so many times. You know what I have done? I have copied the not equal to sign and kept it placed permanently as an image, so that whenever I have to put that in my LinkedIn post, I just go there, take that image, and I put it there. Okay, I do that on purpose because I'm using an Android phone and the character combination is a little difficult to get the not equal to sign. So I've copied that and I've kept it. And every time I have to get it, I copy that, bring it here, paste it. Okay, so because there are so many people who think of it, the moment you open your mouth about Agile, suddenly they start talking about Scrum, product owner, Scrum Master. I'm like, wait a minute, hello, hang on. We are talking about Agile or are we talking about Scrum? Then they're like,
right.
But Agile is Scrum. No, Scrum is Agile. No, that's how they talk to me. And I'm like, no, it is not. So, well, that's one place conversation that I have with people, and thank you, Sachin, for clarifying that for a lot of people. People who watch this will understand what I've been trying to say, what we've been trying to say. We've had a technical glitch. We've run way over time thanks to the technical glitch. I know that your presence is required at home right now a lot more than it was. I'm not going to spill the beans. So, in the interest of time, I will ask you this one final question. Okay, I know that you are very good with poetry, so you read a lot of poetry. I know that you are a sociologist because you probably read a lot, you write a lot. I know that you are an agilist because you got the the manifesto, the principles, and the Scrum Guide by heart. Okay, I know that you are a good sociologist because you give this example about learning. Yesterday also in the live session you gave about the 4 stages of from being a starter to an influencer. If I may not be getting the term right also. So I know all this about you, but what I don't know is what does Sachin do when he is not doing any of these things?
Can you repeat that last sentence?
I said,
you said you know.
I said, I know all this about you, but I don't know what does Sachin do when he is not doing any of these things.
I sleep. If I am awake, I do these things. If I'm not awake, I'm not doing this. But yeah, I play football. I was a university player of football when I was in college. So since last 4 5 months I haven't played, but now I started again. I'm playing it. I always in the morning at meeting I came from football field, right? So I play football. I do a good painting. I have few awards about painting. I play guitar. Uh, I know how to play nice guitar. Yeah. This literature, shairi, and all these things. These are this is what I do, and I enjoy life a lot. I mean, I like people around me to feel happy, to feel comfortable with whatever skill that I have. So I try to do small things, everything small way, if not master of anything. So that's what I do if I'm not doing this testing and HIL and
Well, I'm getting ideas, because in the last Tester Speak, one of the last episodes of Tester Speak, our good friend Naveen, he
all. Oh, he sings
mentioned that
very well.
he sings very well, and now
Yeah.
we have you who plays guitar very well. So I think we can form a band. I think we can
Yeah,
form a band.
absolutely.
I I, I,
Yeah.
I I can probably be the anchor person of that band if I'm good enough. So I think we are, all have alternate careers. But I want to say that you are an all-rounder in its true sense. Keep doing what you're doing because the world needs more people like you. I am so grateful to LinkedIn and to nothing called manual testing that I met a person like you. That hashtag has done wonders for me on a
Oh,
personal front.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it is probably one of the best things that has happened in my testing career, that I've met so many good people because of that, and I'm getting to learn so much. And
Yeah.
you know, I would only say thank you, Sachin, for being what you are, uh, for being that wonderful friend. I can talk to. I can just chill out. We've had some candid banter. We should do more of that. Probably we should record some of our
Yeah.
national conversations to scare the people away.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. I mean, it's so see, talking to you is now become part of life. Every day almost we talk. But speaking on Testo Speaks is always a special thing. And it's a great opportunity, to talk. I mean, we share a lot of things together in fun way, in knowledgeable way. Some of the learning, we talk about our highs and lows. We discuss a lot of things personally as well. But this platform is very important, and whenever people are getting chance and opportunity to come here, they literally are. In fact, they are discovering themselves. When you ask question, I'll definitely tell you the example of sugarcane is first time I'm telling. So it came when you ask such question, and suddenly I gather this, and it came. So it's a teacher or a mentor or a leader can reach to your potential and fetch what you have, but even you don't know you have it. So you have that kind of thing, and this Tester Speaks is very it's unique. I would say it's unique. So if we are running out of time, and I would like to end it with this thought. A lot of testers are listening it. They are looking to learn a lot of things, AI, ML, automation, and stuff like that. Uh, they need not to be. I think people need not to be worried about what and how they learn it. If you learn from Mother Nature, if you learn from the society around you, it's being said that uh, अपने पंखों से नाप लेते हैं उड़ाने आसमानों की, परिंदों को तालीम नहीं दी जाती उड़ानों की. they we do not teach them how to fly. They just have confidence on their wings. And there are two type of birds we have. One is eagle and one is sparrow. So when the rain comes, sparrow goes into a nest to safeguard, and eagle fly on top of that sky who's actually raining. So it's not important that you are what you are. There are people who are eagle. So that James Back, Michael Bolton, Brijesh Dev, Pradeep, they are eagle if they can fly. but you can at least, of course you are, I mean, and then there are people like us who can at least know how to fly, go into your nest and safeguard yourself. Don't get into rain, and you know, do not feel like, okay, I am in trouble, testing is going somewhere, from where I'll find my job. There are multiple ways. You have to just explore yourself, and it's very beautiful way to handle things, because you cannot control a lot of things in your life. So like I said yesterday, you have to pray God to grant you the serenity to accept things which are changing and not in your control, to grant the courage to change the things which are in your control, and to grant the wisdom to find out the difference between both of them. If you do this, testing is always there, and you will always feel proud of being a tester.
Well, thank you so much, Sachin, for those very kind words and for putting me on a very high pedestal. I come nowhere close to where James and Michael and some of the other guys are. I'm also a sparrow, a bigger, slightly bigger sparrow maybe, a slightly older one with a little bit of gray hair already. So salt and pepper look, a sparrow with a salt and pepper look would be a way of describing me. So, so, so I am also
Great
learning as
sparrow.
you are, and you are a great source of inspiration for me to learn from, and all the learning is mutual. Okay, so if you put me on that pedestal, then I would also have to find a pedestal for you up there somewhere. So let's not get into that pedestal race. Okay, I am happy in the space where I am, trying to learn from everybody. That's what I try and do. uh, you know for me, even a 6 months experience tester is a great source of learning, because his or her experience is unique. Okay, and every unique
Yeah.
person has a different perspective on the way they do things. They have their own value system on which they rely on as they have been growing up, and I think that's what we should be happy about, that we are getting an opportunity to learn from every person that we can possibly do. Talking about Tester Speak, yeah, what makes this great is guests like you who come and add a lot of variety, a lot of spice, and that drives me to ask those crazy questions. People will notice that this episode was not one of the regular ones that I do. Okay, it started on a different note. I did not ask the usual questions. So we are going to see more and more of these. And like I have said in a lot of previous episodes, that 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 I have started to realize as I speak to all of you, that we should probably be thinking of a chapter 2 starting soon, because one conversation with you guys is not enough. This is the 10th episode of the Tester Speak series. In fact, the special feature series also had some 6-7 episodes already. That will also have 10 episodes pretty soon. And I'm still not sure who the guest on that 10th episode will be, but I'm sure that's going to be great. Uh, WIT is also, going to be there. It's going to be completing 10 episodes. We've,
Yeah.
you know, uh, we are thinking of some more uh, good things. Okay, especially focused on how to give women more of an opportunity to try and bring out their skills. So these are some of the good things that are going to happen. So yeah, it's all good, and we spoke about WIT. It will be worthless if I do not mention the kind of support that we've been getting from Himani and from you. Okay, the two of you,
Yeah.
especially Himani, she's been doing incredible amount of work. I you know, we owe it to her, but then you also have been supporting her in a big way. A lot of people don't know, but since you're in the episode, I wanted to discuss this. So, uh, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you've been doing. Thank you for being such a great guest. Thank you for sharing those anecdotes, those great examples. My biggest takeaway was that the final product of a farmer is a groom, which which I think people, especially boys who are going to get married, are going to realize that some farmer is behind their success, is behind their marriage. So, so they have to find that farmer and thank him. Okay, so that's one additional responsibility that they're going to, apart from their spouse and their extended family. So thank you, Sachin, for making this Sunday super special. We had a technical glitch, so I'm going to see how I can, do a little bit of tricks to make the video super. Okay, but nevertheless, it is always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll keep talking. Thanks to TTC.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And otherwise, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest
of you too. Yep.
Okay,
thanks.
you.